All right, so for this bit, I need to like just be able to raise one eyebrow at a time. Yeah. Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU, here for another Legacy video. And today, James has asked me to play The Rock. Insert all of the Rock wrestling jokes that you can into the comments. Honestly, this list is really solid. I'm going to make a couple of small changes in real time, and I'm just going to kind of explain them away because I think it'll be useful for our viewers here. This is just green, black, good stuff, honestly, with a focus on a lot of new creatures here. We have Frenzied Baloth, a 3/2 uncounterable trample haster, makes your creature spells uncounterable and combat damage can't be prevented. Holy moly, that is a lot of words. I'm going to date myself here a little bit, but like, do you remember when this was a multi-format all-star? A 2/1 with haste and undying, and then like, here is Frenzied Baloth with so many more words on it. Absolutely wild. And Avenger of the Fallen is also kind of neat. It's a 2/4 Death Toucher, not all that exciting, but it has Mobilize X, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. And we are an 18 creature deck, so we've got a decent density of creatures. So when it attacks, we're going to create X tapped and attacking 1/1 Red Warrior creature tokens, and we'll sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. So just like with Voice of Victory, you get some friends, and you could, in theory, end up with a lot of friends if you are using something like Barrowgoyf to mill a little bit, or you are using something like Witherbloom Command to mill a little bit. This is a deck whose curve starts at 2, so we are at 22 lands plus Chrome Mox in order to kind of make that reasonable. Thoughtseize is the only thing that we have at 1, which feels a little weird to me, but I'm largely on board with like the card quality that is in this deck. We're not maxed out on too many things, and maybe you could finesse these numbers a little bit and decide to play more copies of Malevolent Rumble because they're going to make Avenger of the Fallen and Barrowgoyfs better. But generally speaking, these are not embarrassing Magic the Gathering cards, although the Toski that I was asked to keep is perhaps a little cute. It's uncounterable, indestructible, attacks each combat, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. No green suns hanging out over here or anything like that. This is kind of just what the deck looks like. As far as tweaks that I want to make to the deck, I want to take out Takenuma. I believe that that card is worse than a basic swamp. But more importantly, this deck does not have an Underground Mortuary yet. So that's the first thing that I'm going to add into this deck. If this is a deck that can't always have a turn 1 play, then I think having access to a Surveil land off a fetch land is very, very important. And we will see how good Wastewood Verge is. I have not played this land before in Legacy, although I've seen some other people messing around with the Aether Drift lands. This taps for a green or green-black if you control a swamp or forest. And it's either one. So if you very awkwardly end up with 2 copies of Wastewood Verge, like, congrats, you can make green-green. But assuming you have just about any other lands in your deck, these are additional copies of Bayou. Again, it's not perfect as things like Wasteland and Boseiju are not going to allow it to tap for that second color, but it's a good start. And the other change that I want to make is getting rid of Voidmere. While it seems like this should shut down like the One Ring Cloudpost style decks, in actuality it doesn't, because they have things like Planar Nexus that just allow them to filter their mana, or they have things like a basic forest in their deck that allows them to filter their mana. So while it looks like Voidmere might do a lot, I don't think it really does in reality, and I've been very unimpressed by this card, and I think we are just going to sub those for something like Disruptor Flute or Null Rod. Otherwise, there is one cute card in the sideboard, and that is Culling Ritual. This is 4 mana to destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less, and then add a bunch of mana to your mana pool, 1 green or black, for each permanent destroyed this way. This is something that, in theory, could absolutely wreck an artifact player, just taking out all their Urza Saga tokens and mana rocks and baubles and clues and whatnot all at the same time. I think this is too cute for Legacy, but I also can't bring myself to cut it because it is, in theory, pretty cool tech. So let's take the rock into a league here, see how it feels. Folks, if you need any Magic cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. I love them. They're awesome. They have treated me very, very well, both as a regular customer and as a content creator. Promo code ThrabenU saves you 5% on your order, and you always get free shipping. If you're going to a major event, check out this purple banner when you see it in person for some awesome deals on things like dual lands. All right, let's battle. Oh, this hand gives me the warm and fuzzies, right? 2 basic lands, a removal spell for the first thing that my opponent has. All right, I will take that spell bomb. So I have a Wasteland for Urza Saga. My opponent has nothing. I'm very surprised that my opponent kept that opening hand. Is this the metagame that we live in now? You have spell bomb and your hand just automatically becomes a keep. Big if true. So I imagine my opponent will now grab a Surveil land to kick things off, and they like their card. I have an Abrupt Decay for if they hit something like an Exploration. That allows them to kind of catapult forward a little bit. Malevolent Rumble. Okay, that Life from the Loam is very good. My opponent takes the Pithing Needle there. Sure. I don't think I'm going to Abrupt Decay a Spawn token. Against the Life from the Loam, how do I want to do this? Like, do I still Wasteland? I think I'll still Wasteland to just keep this from getting going. My Abrupt Decay is probably not doing me anything major in the short to medium term here. So I think I'm just going to stick one of these. We could be in trouble if my opponent starts hitting things like Maze of Ith off Life from the Loam. Ooh, buddy. All right. Multiple Urza Sagas incoming. But the spawn's not there anymore, so I do get to get a hit in with this. Oh, man. These Goyfs are going to be huge. Send it. Oh, I messed up. I missed a point of damage. There's not an enchantment in the yard. I will get an Avenger. So there is a new Goyf. There's a Wasteland. I'm just going to take out an Urza's Saga. Oh, that's just good enough for my opponent to concede. Hell yeah. I think my opponent needed to mulligan that opening hand. So my opponent has Goyfs. My opponent might be doing some mid-rangey stuff that's actually pretty similar to what I'm doing. I'm not overly in love with Bowmasters here. I definitely want Endurance. I probably want Opposition Agent. I probably want to get rid of my worst legendary creature and will think about Questing Beast. And then excluding Collector Oof, a lot of this stuff here is perfectly viable. I potentially have to worry about Karakas. I definitely have to worry about Urza Saga. There's some tension between Culling Ritual and Disruptor Flute here. I feel like I have about this many slots. Assuming I want to try to keep Avenger of the Fallen. Which feels reasonable. Feels like a lot of these games are going to end up going pretty long. I think I'm into the Assassin's Trophy. And then might go, I don't know on the last one. 3 Thoughtseizes. This is probably fine. Misty Rainforest. And some boots. That's fine. I don't like that extra Chrome Mox. This feels a little awkward. I think I'm going to go ahead and do it still, but this feels a little awkward. Oh, I would like the Goyf, please. And I'll go ahead and pass here. So now I've got this Wasteland for if my opponent plays something like an Urza Saga that I want to take out. Otherwise, I just start dropping like Avenger of the Fallen and Goyf and stuff. Keen-Eyed Curator. Not bad. I think I'm fine with kind of doing things over multiple phases here. I'm going to go ahead and Wasteland, and then my opponent can't do something like an Edict on this turn, which I think is my read on what they actually have. So then if my opponent wants to Edict a spawn, they can. Yep. Didn't think so. No attack with the Eldrazi spawn token. Now, because my read is that they have a removal spell, I think I play... Maybe I just play my better threat here anyway. They're not guaranteed to have black. Yeah, I'm going to play this one anyway. If they don't have black, this is such a huge deal. Oh, that's tapped black. We're in business. Humidian Hatchery into graveyard. Okay, that makes sense. Send in. Trigger... Yes. Nothing to return, but relatively filled graveyard now. I think I'm going to hold on to Avenger of the Fallen for a little while. Sorry, hold on to Keen-Eyed Curator for a little while. My opponent is not threatening like Life from the Loam yet or anything. There's an Urza Saga. And that's all my opponent's got for now. Is on attack. Yeah. Surely one of my creatures is about to die, right? So there's that trigger. Abrupt Decay. You've got it. So next turn I will mobilize 2 instead. Now I'll drop Keen-Eyed Curator, and I can start eating away at my opponent's graveyard. Let's just X that out. Oh, that is a Life from the Loam, Bayou Misty, and Hatchery. I will just say no to you having Hatchery immediately. And then I can eat the Life from the Loam itself in just a second, assuming my Keen-Eyed Curator is still alive. Smallpox. Fascinating. I think I keep the Keen-Eyed Curator. I'll discard Chrome Mox. I'll get rid of this. Get rid of my Bayou. I still have both of my colors. Alright. So this is land, sorcery, artifact, instant. 7/7. Send it. Opponent is at 4. I have 2 removal spells for opposing blockers. Opponent went back and forth, but is ultimately just floating mana. So we would love to just see like a Goyf played out, and I just eat that. A Wiremite. Reasonable blocker. Reasonable sacrifice fodder as well. Mox Diamond. Urza's Saga. Abrupt Decay is rough. That was a strong set of cards. Opponent just sacrifices that immediately to take out my Chrome Mox. Reasonable. I'll do gross things in a minute. The opponent is going to make their construct and then go to equip it with boots. Please sacrifice a creature token. We eat up a lot of mana there. That is a tapped land, unfortunately. Witherbloom Command. I can get rid of the boots. They're not that big of a deal. I can get back a Wasteland. That's not all that great. I think I'd rather just draw another creature. The life loss is not quite lethal. I'll say no to that. So there's Urza Saga token from my opponent. I assume this is going to be something like a Spell Bomb? No, it is a Mox Diamond. And they Thoughtseize me. I'm going to give you a chance to take my Shoulder's Edict and leave me with the Goyf. They left me with the Goyf. Ooh, Opposition Agent is neat. I still think I play this, despite the fact that my opponent let me keep it. If my opponent has Smallpox, it's getting both creatures just about no matter what. There's a Wasteland. Yeah, you can Wasteland me. It is Smallpox. I'll keep the air quotes both colored land. There we go. Witherbloom Command. That can get a Wasteland back, and it does. And I'll go down another land. I'm fine until my opponent hits something like a Life from the Loam. Malevolent Rumble. That can get them a Goyf, which it does. I don't have the land to play my spells here. Not looking great in the short term now, because it gets to get haste and just crash in immediately. I take a lot of damage. My opponent mills a ton of cards. No Life from the Loam yet. They still get an Orcish Bowmaster. Yeah, I can just die to this in 2 attack steps if I miss out on cards. Which I think has happened now, right? Because they crack me for 7. And then if I draw a land, I could just play Keen-Eyed Curator and that like chump blocks. Yeah, no, we just could not deploy spells. We lose the 13-turn game. Do I just want to become more threat dense? Like, how do I feel about these Thoughtseizes? Stopping Goyfs from coming down is kind of a big deal. I'm less keen on Disruptor Flute now that I know a little bit more about my opponent's deck. It doesn't look like there's going to be like the Maze of Ith style lockdown cards, and it's much more mid-range. Might do like 1 Questing Beast, Toski, or Calling Ritual to round out the deck. Calling Ritual is something that can take out multiple Urza Saga tokens or Eumidian Hatchery tokens at the same time is like pretty reasonable. This is only 15 threats as is. Do I need to like not Witherbloom Command to get more threats in there? Witherbloom Command gets back lands that are wastelanded. That feels real. Maybe I need more threats. Like we just assume that we are going to go into long games. And so having more threats is more important than anything else. This is fine. I'm going to need another mana, but this is fine. It's always Chromux. And I think one of these two goes under. I'm going to do Bowmasters under. And we'll Malevolent Rumble. No lands. Incredibly awkward with Bowmasters under there and Frenzied Baloth being the hit. I think I'm going to take the haste creature anyway. Like, I know there are Grists on the other side of the battlefield. I wonder if hitting the 2 copies of Frenzied Baloth is enough of a consideration to put Abrupt Decay under. Midian Hatchery, Bowmaster immediately. Annoying. There's the 3rd land drop. I think I'm kind of just into Opposition Agent immediately. Abrupt Decay on Mox Diamond is kind of tempting. For sure. The opponent does not attack in. There's Opposition Agent. Yeah, this is now awkward for Frenzied Baloth purposes. I don't think I want to attack in right now. I think I'm just going to play out another threat. Pass. Well, we're playing around that wasteland. That's the good news. There's a Goyf. I can easily answer that. Can't answer that and play Frenzied Baloth all at the same time. I think that's a it is what it is situation. I wonder if I'm supposed to attack with this. If I trade with both of those, the field is clear. Another creature is in the graveyard for this. Yeah. Mobilize. Alright. Opponent does trade. I guess it's weird because smallpox, right? I'd way rather sacrifice the opposition agent. That's just a land drop. Probably bodes well for me. Do I have 2 of each basic? I think I do. I do. I guess I can untap and do this if it's just going to be a basic. Now I can leave it. So there's the Baloth. Go to Punchies. You may wasteland me. I believe there is no reason to do that when you have Midian Hatchery in play. Send it. Mobilize for 2. Opponent takes a ton of damage and is at 7. There's an Urza's Saga. We have gotten the GGs there. It did not feel like my opponent played very much Magic that last game. I wonder if they have some lines where they pay 1 more life, tap Midian Hatchery 1 more time, tap Midian Hatchery on this turn, go up to 4 counters on it, wasteland their own land, and then try to use 4, what are they, rogues? Their 4 insect tokens to buy time for this to tick up. I think they're in an uphill battle, but I think that contributes much more strongly to them winning than just wastelanding my 4th or 5th mana source. I think they also had, like, easily could have just mulliganed game 1 when they kept a 6-land hand or whatever with Spellbomb. Regardless, GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you want to see upcoming sets, if you want to understand commander brackets, or if you just want an awesome place to store all, and I mean all, of your deck lists, Moxfield is the place. You can organize all of your decks by folders, and you can even change the views. You like visual, they've got that. You like text, they've got that. Check out my Moxfield Pro Field if you want to see all, and I mean all, of the decks that I've been cooking up. I've got a rock solid opening hand. Because we're playing the rock. I'll show myself out. No, don't kill me. Don't kill me. I had so much thought seizing to do. Don't do it. Mismatching Lotus Petals, and there's 3 of them. Show me the 4th. Show me the 4th Lotus Petal, you coward. Yes. There's the Spirit Guide. Alright, we died on turn 1. Enjoyable Magic, the Gathering. There's only 2 Narcomoebas. I'm just going to assume that there's Poxwalkers in here, and everything is totally fine and dandy for my opponent. Yeah, there's Poxwalkers. So there's Thassa's Oracle. There's another Cabal Therapy. Oh no, the Dread Return is right there. Okay, I mean, we're dead. There was no magic to be played there. No fun to be had. Is it November yet? 4x Leyline of the Void, 2 Collector Oofs, 2 Disruptor Flutes. We will certainly play Endurance. Opposition Agent doesn't do much. Culling, Ritual, and Assassin's Trophy technically have text, but aren't very good. We will probably go Edict out. Decays, Mist, Charbelchers, that's kind of a big deal. Witherbloom Command is not particularly strong. The slower creatures are very bad here. Bowmasters also does not do a lot. I'm going to keep this as a way to get Wastelands back. And then let's cut a couple of Bowmasters for Assassin's Trophies. Those are just land Excuse me, those are just land destruction spells that also can eat a Goblin Charbelcher or a Rotting Regisaur or whatever jukes my opponent is playing. And this is probably about the best we can do. I open up on a Leyline of the Void. I'll keep my hand, and hopefully we don't die to Goblin Charbelcher. If we don't die to Goblin Charbelcher, I can Wasteland my opponent, and then I have a self-spiraling threat and a very solid follow-up. Leyline in play. Surveil land, queued up. That's just a tapped land. I will just immediately surround. Oh, there was an Underground Mortuary in there. I had multiple of them. Yeah, so that's going to get my Wasteland back. We'll take that. Yeah. I would have sworn there was not an Underground Mortuary in this deck. But whatever, I don't need an excuse to take Takenuma out of my deck. Alright, I'm crazy. There's two of them. Oh, I lost the Goyf. Unexpected. So, land drop, Witherbloom Command. We're going to mill 3 and drain, and we'll get back Wasteland. Opponent is at 13, having not taken any damage from my creatures yet. Alright, looks like we're going to die. There's a Boggart Trawler. Not dying now. Opponent's going to try to pivot into being the beatdown. I'm not going to die to that, I don't think. I think I will just waste... I guess I could Thoughtseize. Let's do that. Petal, Spy. I'll just take your Spy, I think. No chances. Given that, I don't think I need to Wasteland. I can just play my threat and then Wasteland on a future turn. I'll take 3. Boseiju is cool. That's another way to destroy a land. Or a Charbelcher, for that matter. Vigilant, Death Touch, Hasty creature with a gajillion D keywords on it. And there's no Death Touch or anything fancy here, so that is now walled. Goyf is great. I'll just immediately Wasteland you. Drop a land. Go to Punchies. Punchies for 4. Opponent is at 5. And I am not dropping a threat that is going to be lethal immediately. And it might not even be able to super easily just attack. But that's good enough for a win. Now I've got to do the same thing, but on the draw, which is significantly harder. I could finesse some numbers a little bit. So on the draw, maybe it is more important to have an Abrupt Decay for a random Poxwalkers or Boggart Trawler that is played out, rather than a Bowmasters, which is an unimpressive threat. None of those cards are Leyline of the Void. None of those cards are Leyline of the Void either. I'm just dead such a high proportion of the time if I don't mulligan to Leyline. On about 5 cards, maybe I start thinking about keeping something like this. I don't think I am game for this on the draw on 6. Yeah, this is fine. Avenger is my slowest thing here. Then I always need these 3. I think I always keep Collector Oof for Charbelcher. And neither one of these is castable off of the lands that I currently have access to. You want to keep Witherbloom Command for getting Wasteland back and throw Keen-Eyed Curator in the deck. That is a Leyline of Sanctity. Well, I have my own Leyline. No mana played out. I don't get to use my Wasteland immediately. Disruptor Flute is a fine pickup. So I can intend on using a Surveil land at end of turn to try to find another mana source. My opponent might have a land that they are just sandbagging in hand. I, in fact, find that very, very, very likely. All right. They're just chilling again. There's Underground Mortuary. Goyf can just go to Graveyard. I'm looking for another land right now. Okay, cool. Now I don't need to show Wasteland immediately. I think I do Collector Oof first. That shuts off Lotus Petals as initial mana sources and shuts off Goblin Charbelcher as an alternative finisher. It's also not an artifact or enchantment, so if my opponent has access to Force of Vigor could take out Disruptor Flute and Leyline at the same time. Alright, opponent is chilling. Well, my opponent has Hexproof, and this only destroys small stuff. Send it. Opponent is at 18. I think I'll hold up Flute, but not play it immediately. This covers Graveyard. This covers Charbelcher. I think I just name, like, Force of Vigor with Disruptor Flute, as weird as that is, so I never lose this Leyline. I think that's my plan. And then I just, like, keep my opponent off of mana with Wasteland and Witherbloom Command bringing back Wasteland. And Witherbloom Command bringing back Wasteland again. Send in for 2. Opponent's at 16. Wasteland this. So I'm going to mill 3, and I will make my Collector Oof ever so slightly smaller. But it does not kill it. Is Surveilland or Wasteland better? I think Wasteland is. Especially if I can just keep doing that again and again and again with the next Witherbloom command. Opponent is fully just on discarding to hand size right now. Discarding a Lotus Petal. I think it is largely better to play out that Lotus Petal than to leave it in exile. There's timelines where this is removed, right? I'll drop a Bayou. I don't need a Witherbloom command this turn. Send in for 2. 14. Now I just want another threat to help speed up this game. There's a Bog. Foundation Breaker. Sure. That can take the Leyline out of play. And it does. So now I'm in a scary spot. My opponent just discarded a Lotus Petal, so hopefully they don't have too much actual mana. Oops, all Wastelands over here. Get rid of a land. Throw a new Wasteland into play. I think I hold Witherbloom command. And pass the turn. Opponent passes back. Okay, cool. There is a threat to help accelerate this. So this means that my opponent is dead next turn. 7. There's a Goyf. Opponent goes to 4. Spirit Guide. And my opponent is dead. This brings me no joy. GG. Alright, we have a reasonable opening hand here. We have a mix of lands and spells. I am not getting aggressive anytime early on in this game. My first threat is on turn 4, but we have answers to early creatures like Tamiyo. So hopefully this plays out okay. I don't think I want to mulligan something that looks like this. We don't have that many 1-drop plays, so hands that are off to a slower start are not going to be uncommon. I think I will just lead on my basic land and pass the turn. Opponent thought for a little while before keeping their 7, so maybe there's some problem with their hand. Or maybe they just had to get the pizza out of the oven. We'll never know. Basic mountain. Basic forest. I think I am going to save this as a potential removal spell for some permanents. It might only be something like a Chrome Mox. If we are playing against Moonstompy. City of Traders. It is Painter, and that's fine. Like, we just have a pile of removal here. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. I think I'm going to get a land. Well, I guess they could just hit the Shoulder's Edict directly. They don't know that I have more removal spells. Yeah, they're just going to Pyroblast my spell on the stack. That's fine. And I will, I think, just run this back immediately. Take out the Painter. Drop a land and pass. And we can start hitting our opponent relatively hard with Questing Beast next turn. Assuming there's nothing that I want to Witherbloom command. Opponent going down a land. This probably means Karn is happening. It is Karn. Now, bottom line. When Questing Beast deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls. So we can hit our opponent for 4 and get Karn for free. Which is a pretty big deal. So many basic lands. Get in there, bud. And my opponent picked Liquid Metal Coating as their tutor target, which does not do anything without Karn. Attack your face. 16, trigger, goodbye Karn. That was a big swing. Urza Saga ticks up. That's an Ancient Tomb. The token that my opponent makes is only a 1/1 for like Orcish Bowmaster's pinging purposes, unless my opponent plays another permanent here. It is Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. Do any of my Witherbloom command modes line up well versus that? Non-creature, non-land with mana value 2 or less? No. Target creature? No. This is certainly not bad, though. I'm always doing that. Wasteland, target this. I can't be blocked by little guys. Opponent takes 4. I think I'm going to get my Wasteland back and just drain my opponent. Wait, what if I ping the Goblin Shaman token instead? Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, I'm going to get back Wasteland and hit this. So, bam. Get back the Wasteland to attack that Ancient Tomb in a minute, and then we will just Bowmaster finish off the Goblin. And then that makes the looting mode worse as well. We're in a really good spot. And a single Fury doesn't wipe my entire board because Questing Beast is so big. That is 2 pings. Opponent gets rid of their liquid metal coating. That doesn't do anything without Karn. They are at 8. Facing down 8 damage, so they need to remove something here. Ensnaring Bridge. I still get 4 damage in. If I had 2 damaged at face, we're in a different ballgame. So, 4 damage at face. Ancient Tomb is no longer a valid land. Neither is this Urza's Saga. That is back to 4 cards in hand. Questing Beast can attack again. Let's see how many things my opponent can get out of hand. Goblin Engineer. Grindstone going to Yard. Another Questing Beast is not what I'm hoping to draw here. My Bowmaster can attack but can't get anywhere. So this is now bad because Reflection of Kiki-Jiki can start copying Goblin Engineer to put all sorts of nonsense into the graveyard. I would like to draw an Abrupt Decay to get rid of Ensnaring Bridge. And it's in the sideboard that I have Assassin's Trophy. Yes. Ooh, there's Painter Servant. Mana is a little bit of a bottleneck right now, but it might not be forever. Another Bowmaster. I think I'm just gonna... Well, that's very weird, right? Because sometimes this can attack next turn. I think I hold. There's a Goblin Welder. I will just Bowmaster ping that. And hopefully my opponent doesn't respond. Things get real awkward if they respond to this. They can make a hasty Goblin Welder right here. I hope they don't. Nice, they don't. That's an Abrupt Decay. I can't be blocked by little guys. Not enough mana to kill me. Yep, this will just do. Unless there is a red elemental blast that counters my uncounterable spell. Right. That'll do. So I could push 1 point of damage here. Which honestly I probably will, because any 1 extra drawn card is lethal. And then another Bowmaster from here is lethal. That seems fine. That's another Ancient Tomb. That is not what my opponent wants to see. Now there's not any artifacts in play. Bam. Now we're going to see new copies of Goblin Engineer to get new stuff into graveyard. I imagine that my opponent is going to... Well, Mox Opal is not on right now. Another Ensnaring Bridge. Reasonable. The Goblin Engineers at least take some mana to activate. And the extra goes away. I do not want to cast Thoughtseize right now. I would like my opponent to end up with more cards in hand, so theoretical creatures that I have can attack. I think when my opponent gets 1 more mana, I am very afraid, right? Then Grindstone is on the table. Like, put Grindstone into play off Goblin Engineer and activate it. There's Phyrexian Dragon Engine, which seems bad. Okay. Phyrexian Dragon Engine comes into play. You may draw your 3 cards. Yeah, there we go. Opponent just sent me a string of ... Alright, cool. I had some slightly different ways to navigate that one. I think so did my opponent. Final punt there aside. So, I think this game is more about the battlefield than hand. I think I'm going to take Thoughtseize out of my deck. A lot of the rest of this stuff is fine. I don't think this is getting through a lot of my opponent's creatures. I'm not overly keen on this. Culling Ritual seems like it'll wipe out a lot of my opponent's stuff. The Painters, the Grindstones, the Urza Saga tokens, any artifact mana, treasures, that sort of stuff. Opposition Agent, Endurance, all this stuff is stuff that I want to be thinking about. My deck is probably going to look quite different. Realistically, how good is some of this stuff? Like, how good is Witherbloom Command? Hits Grindstone, hits Mana Rocks, doesn't kill a lot of my opponent's creatures. Recurring Wasteland is cool, maybe not necessary. I think a bunch of my sideboard stuff is better than it. Bowmasters is in kind of a weird spot as well. I think I might be cutting it, despite the fact that it does some cool things versus an Ensnaring Bridge. So, the thing about keeping Witherbloom Command in the deck is that it is some direct damage that can go to face to finish off my opponent. So if I cut Bowmaster and Witherbloom Command at the same time, dealing the last couple of points of damage through Bridge can be annoying. I think I am just going to accept that. I could also go down on Avenger of the Fallen. This is not enough mana. On it mulligans as well. I'm going to keep this, and now the question is, like, what do I think about Opposition Agent? How quickly do I need to get it out? Giving up Questing Beast seems like a big deal. I'm going to take the beginning of this game a little bit slower. And my opponent is mulliganing to 5 cards. Oh no, their opening hand is very bad. They are on 4. Not that my hand is fast or even particularly good, but if we are expecting to play a 10-turn game, being down that many cards, especially when on the play, is very tough. No land drop. No, opponent is a second main phase hipster. There's a grindstone. I have a disruptor flute for that. Verdant Catacombs and pass. There's a city. There's a painter. Fetch. Underground mortuary. I will not take the additional land. So I can play around one of 2 things here. I can play around the last card being a Pyroblast effect by just wastelanding my opponent, but then if they have a soul land, I die. So I don't think I do that. I think I am just disruptor fluting, and if my opponent's 4-card hand and top deck is exactly such that they combo off on turn 3 with protection, so be it. There we go. It is not. Grindstone is off. And I imagine that if my opponent loses this City of Traders, it will be very tough for them to win. Alright, I will take 1. Yeah, there's no Fable or anything there to follow up. Wasteland your land. You can float mana. I don't think you have anything to do with it. Yeah. There is another land drop. Opponent not swinging into potential Orcish Bowmasters. Boseiju is very good. I will hold that up in case things get weird, and I will have Opposition Agent as well. Another mountain. Another painter, sure. Painters are not crashing in. I will fetch. I think I'm going to get a basic in respect of Blood Moon being a thing that my opponent could have out of the sideboard. I think I will do a basic swamp here. Throw down an Opposition Agent. No immediate Lightning Bolt. This lets me continue to hold Boseiju. Oh, I messed up. I should have played Questing Beast there. I can Boseiju one of those and kill both at the same time. I don't think I need to do that right now. Kill one of those. I will deploy an Avenger of the Fallen. I wish I had just played Questing Beast the previous turn, though. Then I can just keep attacking with that while holding up Boseiju. Not have to worry about a Red Elemental Blast taking out my Disruptor Flute or whatever. You are a legendary creature. Beast. Which reduces this to 1. So with that in mind, get the basic, play Questing Beast, send on in. Mobilize. My opponent will just block that, and they are taking 6 a turn as of right now. Oh, do you realize this has Death Touch? I figured it out. Yep. Alright, 14, and then I will, I think, just pass here. I can Boseiju this at will, and I don't know that I want to do it immediately. 4th land drop, and we're chilling. Frenzied Baloth. 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1 and 2. Send in. Mobilize. Maybe sniffed out that I have Boseiju. I guess I Boseiju in response then to just make sure that I can always do that. Oh, I overtapped. Even after talking about how that cost was going to be reduced. Opponent names Abrupt Decay. Goes to 4. Now hopefully my opponent does not rip Ensnaring Bridge. They don't. They put up a good show for mulliganing to 4, or whatever that was. GG's. I'm 100% keeping this hand. I think I'm not Thought Seizing on turn 1. I think I want my turn 1 to be Malevolent Rumble. What goes under the Chrome Mox? I think it's Bowmasters. I think Bowmasters is the most forgettable card in this hand. I think I'm just going to go bam, bam, Malevolent Rumble, with the intention of getting a land, so Wasteland does not necessarily knock me off of my stuff. Yeah, this is a little too far away. I will just take the forest here. So now next turn, I have Thoughtseize into a 3-4 Goyf, maybe bigger. We're 3-0, by the way. This league is going well. Good old Flooded Strand. Guess I'll tap this one. Let's Thoughtseize. Looks like we are probably getting a Brainstorm in response. Hide some of the goodies. And I'm correct. I guess the next question is going to be like, is this control? Is this Nadu? Oh no, it's none of that. I don't care about this Pithing Needle for the most part. Is that an Ancient Tomb? That is an Ancient Tomb. So these are just draw 2s, which is obviously good. There are timelines where the top card is just a Stifle effect, and my opponent is threatening Phyrexian Dreadnought next turn. I love that timeline. I think I'm still going to take the Dreadnought and go in for this. Sometimes there's a Swords on top, sometimes there's a Stifle effect on top. If there's a Stifle effect on top, it might be useful 2 turns from now. My opponent does an Ancient Tomb this turn to just draw 2 with a Null Drifter, and then the following turn they Null Drifter and Stifle the Evoke trigger. Just basic Island instead. Sure. Free combat Thoughtseize I think is fine with me. Stock Up is the draw. Stock Up is scarier than Null Drifters, I believe. This does mean that I am getting in with the Goyf. I didn't always think was going to happen. Trigger, yes. Avenger is fine. I'm attacking for nearly lethal next turn. I can get creature, artifact, sorcery, instant for 3 mana. Attack for 7 plus 5. Oh shit. Not attacking for lethal immediately. I haven't seen a fucking Triumph of St. Catherine in Legacy in ages. That's wild. It's cool, obviously, but very unexpected. I guess opponent can now Pithing Needle, Keen-Eyed Curator. It's still a 2-turn clock if they do that, though, so I'm good with all that. This is fine. And we are needled. Land drop. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. Now, in case you aren't super familiar with this, this is now going to get shuffled into the top 6 cards of my opponent's library. Yeah. Or I guess technically top 7, right? Because it's 6 plus that. Mill. Ooh, I will just grab the one that I can play immediately. Hope we're not expecting Terminus to be in this deck as well. I don't think I am. But now I am very easily going wide of whatever body my opponent plays. GG. So, I'm into Opposition Agent as something that can mess with my opponent's lands. I'm into Assassin's Trophy as something that answers any threat, no matter what it is, whereas Abrupt Decay doesn't do that. Endurance as a flash creature is something that I can think about. I'm not sure that it makes sense to Thoughtseize my opponent. They just have so many draw twos. If they have presumably a playset of Stock Up and Null Drifters, like that's a lot of draw twos and the 1-for-1s. I don't know that those make sense. I think I'm gonna get rid of this, or just 2 more threats. So now we are at 22 creatures instead. We'll keep the Toski here. Okay, I don't have Chrome Mox for acceleration this time. I have a solid set of cards. I can answer a bunch of creatures. I only have 1 threat of my own. Hopefully I will draw more. Yeah. I'm just gonna play, well, I'm just gonna play Forest here. I think a lot of the time I wasteland my opponent and the next turn cycle. They are going to have a bunch of stuff to do in the 3 to 5 mana range. And they are fetching now. And this probably means double Tundra. Torpor Orb, you've got it. Hey, I think I just wasteland here still. Yeah. Attempt to keep my opponent from casting things like Null Drifter immediately. Ooh, they don't have more mana. Nice. I think I just Malevolent Rumble here to try to secure my own land drops. Yes. I've already made my land drop. I will pass the turn here. Goyfs are already 4/5s. I can Abrupt Decay Torpor Orb if I think it is problematic, which I currently do not. All right, very nice. We're going to start throwing down dudes. And some of them might just eat Swords to Plowshares type removal. And that's fine if that's the case. I have 3 threats. Yes. Ooh, a path even. So I will say yes to that. Given my green card, I think I will take a bonus Forest there. That is a Surveil land. Junking a Wrath of the Skies. I would love to find another Wasteland. Come on. But I love it enough that I would like to cast Malevolent Rumble to look for it. I don't know that that's actually true. I'm just going to hold up Decay for Torpor Orb for a Null Drifter. And I'll pass here. That can answer my Keen-Eyed Curator. I can eat a couple cards from their graveyard. It's unclear if that actually matters. I think I'm just going to let it go and Abrupt Decay Torpor Orb. Then I don't have to hold mana up for this forever. Bayou. I should not have played that land. That was objectively a mistake. Toski, Frenzied Baloth. Both of those are good for very different reasons. I think I'm just going to take the Frenzied Baloth. That allows me to get in there immediately. It's uncounterable. Opponent's at 15. And then, because I have 2 of these, I still get to throw down a Goyf. My opponent's not to enough mana where something like Wrath of the Skies or Supreme Verdict is gonna take me off my stuff. Oh, no more lands. Well, this is half of your life total if you don't have a response. Oh, they don't. That's rough. Mill 5. Return a Goyf. 5 creatures in graveyard for this. I think Goyf is still scarier. And I can just play another card because, again, unless it's something super weird like Terminus, just not vulnerable to sweepers right now, and this is uncounterable. Yeah, that's it. That's the concession. We are now playing for a trophy with good old Rock. Okay, I'm keeping this 7-card hand. I think it is slightly underwhelming. I get Underground Mortuary to either find me something else to do or just put something in the graveyard to grow this Barrowgoyf, which is my current plan. All right, Underground Sea Gamer. It's real in playing for the trophy. Almost no matter what I draw, I will be wastelanding that Underground Sea. Just anything that slows my opponent down while I have this many lands in hand is perfectly fine. And Ponder did the Ponder thing. Ooh, another Abrupt Decay. So if we are playing against something fairer here, where I have to deal with, Tamiyos and Nethergoyfs, we're very prepared for that. Yeah, all day, bud. We got so many lands over here. Cool. So now we have a decent mix of lands and spells and removal, like 2/2/2. Looking good. Nice. Please don't discard a fatty. Nice. I'm going to play this as a land that way. If my opponent wastelands a land off the top of their deck, they are wastelanding a monocolored land and not a multicolored land. All right, Polluted Delta in play. There's a very good chance that there's another Daze here. I'm kind of into just pass turn and play Orcish Bowmasters in response to a Polluted Delta, probably. Although if this is going to be Entomb and the follow-up card is specifically Animate Dead, I might want to hold up Abrupt Decay. Yes. Raxa in yard. Please don't be Reanimate. God damn it. I'm so sick of this shit. But my Abrupt Decay does not interact with that. I'll put a Bowmasters in play. Bang your face. So there's a Traxa. Yeah. Remember how I said if we were dealing with fair stuff, we are very, very good? They're not dealing with fair stuff. All right. Force of Negation. There's a Thought. Yeah, so my opponent gets 2 pieces of protection from that, a Thoughtseize and a Force of Negation. With Underground Sea. Yeah. I lose my Goyf. That's expected. Opponent discards a Brainstorm. I guess I'm just doing Avenger of the Fallen. It doesn't do enough to power through this Atraxa, especially since Atraxa has Vigilance. I'm not very high on outs to an Atraxa. I've got Sheoldred's Edicts, and I already milled one of those. And I'm going to have to fully play a Sheoldred's Edict around Force of Negation as well. And there's Murktide, which also dodges Abrupt Decay. That's a disaster. 13. Just dead next turn. And none of this really changes that. I'll Thoughtseize my opponent just to see if I see anything cool. Alright. We have to win both of the post-sideboard games to get the trophy. Leyline in, Endurance in, Assassin's Trophy in, Oski out, Witherbloom Command potentially out. It can do some fringe things like remove an Animate Dead. It's not killing a lot of creatures. And then I guess the next thing is, do I want Thoughtseize? In the fair, I am playing against Tamiyo situations, the answer is absolutely not. And in the unfair Reanimator situations, the answer is like, oh god, I need it so badly. Having to play around both plans at the same time is very, very, very tough, as the entire format very clearly knows right now. What if I get rid of Chrome Mox? Then that's 61, and I just trim a random threat somewhere. Can I do that? Like, can I pull 4 Chrommox and 2 Witherbloom Command at the same time when Witherbloom Commands are also kind of lands? I think I am willing to find out. I believe. Graveyard is shut off. I'm going to Thoughtseize in an attempt to take a card like Tamiyo out of my opponent's hand immediately. We'll see if I get punished for this. There is a Tamiyo, and that is the card that I am taking. My opponent's Brainstorm is very good, though. The Brainstorm lets them get rid of this Atraxa. I could take Brainstorm the first time and just hope they don't hit an untapped land, and then I guess if this is their known land, I can get Tamiyo and Brainstorm in either order. I think it's scarier if the Tamiyo happens, though. They keep a card on top. Probably a land. Another Decay is not what I'm looking for. Thoughtseize you. Full on Force of Will to protect that Brainstorm. If I had another land and got to do that third Thoughtseize, that would have been devastating. So this is now a very, very, very big Brainstorm moment, where my opponent could find a Wasteland and take me off of my 1 land. They could find a fetch land and then play a Tamiyo afterwards, and then I can't immediately remove that. I don't have Abrupt Decay mana yet. This is big. It is Underground Sea. No Tamiyo, though. Nice. Well, anyway, I started Thoughtseizing. Entomb and Archon don't do anything right now, though I guess I am taking a Fatal Push. So my opponent has effectively no cards in hand after they play that island, other than the one that they draw for this turn. Alright, any land, we Abrupt Decay that. My chances of winning are insane. I guess it can't be Wasteland. Nice. Get out. Now hopefully I can use Malevolent Rumble to stabilize my mana for the rest of the game. Though maybe I just play Keen-Eyed Curator and start getting feisty. Yeah, because I'm going to play this while I have green, guaranteed. Fatal Push is the one unknown card. Reanimation cards are now technically online for Keen-Eyed Curator. Alright, I have another Abrupt Decay for that, luckily. If I don't, this just essentially wins the game on the spot. It is absurd how much game this deck has, despite the fact that you can throw a targeted Haymaker at them. Yikes, now I lose a Goyf, so that's in the graveyard as a reanimation target for my opponent. Yep. Bowmasters? I'm fine just doing that immediately, because it resolves 100% of the time right now. And I don't want to pass the turn with 2 open mana, and then my opponent Brainstorms in response to an Orcish Bowmasters or something. Yep, no, we just talked about this. So let's Malevolent Rumble. I was trying to leave open, both of my colors of mana. I kind of get punished for that. I'm going to take the Surveil land here. That did not work out well for me. I get a couple of turns worth of chump blocks on the Goyf to draw into my own creature that can trade with it, or a Shoulder's Edict. We will just block here, and I will sacrifice so that my opponent does not gain the life. Alright, opponent is just casting the Ponder into the Bowmaster. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I'll ping you. 12. Opponent passes. That's a Shoulder's Edict. There's some chance that my opponent currently has Orcish Bowmasters. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep that. Can't be Daze, could be a random Spell Pierce. Don't want to block with this if things go wrong. I think I'm just going to pass the turn here, as awkward as that is, and then do this in upkeep. Sacrifice a non-token creature. Okay, cool. So I miss a little bit of damage in the short term to just be a little safer. And then I will have another Shoulder's Edict the following turn. It's now fine for me to send in with both of these. I don't think I am tapping out to play a Leyline of the Void. Maybe I can. If I cast that, it gives my opponent a chance to bounce a Surveil land. They have a Daze. Maybe this is just important to do in respect of Brazen Borrower being a thing. I don't want my opponent to Brazen Borrower a Leyline and pull way ahead. Okay, we are at the point of cast Entomb, probably take another Entomb out of the deck. Yep, there's a Fatal Push, sure. Thoughtseize takes my removal spell, down to 7. And Swift Heath is not great, not what I am looking for. Opponent is at 5. There's a Tamiyo. That is horrifying. That will take over this game, unquestionably. I do not want that other Leyline of the Void. All day I am attacking into this Tamiyo. I think I can get 2 damage in right here. I think opponent will play around Bowmaster. They might not. They need to crack the clues anyway. Okay. So I can Wasteland and just help out a little bit with the rate at which my opponent can crack clues, but this Tamiyo is going to take over the game. I'm going to lose to it if I don't answer it in the next turn or two. I have a ton of answers to it. You know, the decays, the edicts, the questing beasts. I have tons of things that'll do it, but I do have to draw them. Fantastic. Now my Orc army token is terrible. Now Archon of Cruelty is no longer in my opponent's hand. Alright, deck. I'm only hitting this Tamiyo for 1, which is not great. I'll thin a land out of my deck as well. My opponent could be at 2 here, or even 1 here if I had made that other attack. Regardless, my position would still be bad. Tamiyo pluses. I think I played that other turn correct, though. I think if my opponent like flashes in and Orcish Bowmaster is in response and gets to keep their better creature, it's just such a beating. Pull a Bayou from the deck. Well, there's a Questing Beast. This is a lethal attack if this resolves. Of course. I think I'm going to keep fighting over this. It's very tempting to just try to poke my opponent a couple of times and then draw a Bowmaster to finish them off. I don't have all of my direct damage in the deck anymore, though. Petty Theft? Petty Theft. Yep. Tamiyo's at 7. Endurance is not the worst, I suppose. That at least gives me a chance to take out the Tamiyo. There's Brazen Borrower. That now gets in the way of this Endurance. I'm going to hold the Endurance to see if my opponent casts like an Animate Dead on one of my cards. Oh shit, I was off on the number of Tamiyo loyalty. Well, I guess while I can resolve this, I will now resolve this. I'm going to clear out my graveyard so that my opponent can't reanimate my stuff. Now I think should be trivial for my opponent to win. Alright, there's a Bitter Triumph. So now my opponent has 16 cards in hand, and an onboard threat. I have nothing. Tamiyo surviving for 1 turn. Fuck you, deck. Tamiyo surviving for 1 turn just turned this game on a dime. There's a Bowmasters as well. I think at this point I can tap out. This is 5 power in play or 2 power in play, and I have no cards in hand, and my opponent hasn't even tapped out for a more powerful threat yet. That'll do. That is a disappointing end to the league, but we put up a really good league with a 4-1 finish with, you know, kind of an off-the-wall rock deck. So let's wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on the deck list. James, honestly, this was pretty darn good. The numbers felt pretty clean. Felt like I had about the right balance of lands and spells. The Chrome Mox worked pretty well. I think the Chrome Mox is better than Mana Dorks here. It's possible like some ignoble hierarchs are reasonable. That's another thing that just accelerates you to 3 on turn 2 without requiring you to go down another card. We don't have that much card advantage here. We have a handful of threats that can hit like trucks, and that helps us to not need the card advantage. Questing Beast in theory is pretty cool, like being able to maintain aggression while killing a Tamiyo or a Karn or a Tezzeret is pretty cool. I like this a lot. This feels pretty good. It's possible there's some wiggling to be done on like how many Witherbloom commands, how many Malevolent Rumbles, how many Frenzied Baloths. I think there's some wiggle room there. Again, the Calling Ritual in the sideboard is probably a little ambitious. The Toski in the main deck is probably the weakest slot. Outside of that, I like what's here a lot. Possible that Opposition Agent is not fast enough in the deck, and you can consider other options in that slot. But generally speaking, I'm gonna give this one a big thumbs up. You could maybe adjust the graveyard hate, like if you wanted to play 4 copies of Endurance and 2 copies of Nihil Spellbomb or something like that. I think that's a reasonable approach as well. But that was a lot of fun. That was a good way to spend an afternoon, and I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great rest of the day, folks. See ya!